Hi, this is Cheryl for Bayer's Pampered Stampers, and today I want to show you how to work with the tiny gift box die. It is a very popular die for Lawn Fawn and for Melissa as well. There are lots of different characters. There's a whole menagerie of them that you can put on the tiny gift box and just have fun with. So let's look at the plain die itself. This is really the star of the show, and I want to bring it all into the camera angle here. This is all you need to cut a box. Cut one and done. I like that. One and done is good for me. Also with the die, that die, which is again the star of the show, you get pieces where you can make a bow. You get stars and hearts and circles and other things that you could put on to decorate the box. One of the first uses of the boxes was to make Advent or countdown boxes. So this stamp set is called Celebration Countdown. It has the numbers from 0 to 25. You don't have to put numbers together. They're all there spelled out for you. So these are easy peasy to stamp. No problem. You can see we've got a scallop circle that can go on, a balloon, a Christmas tree. There's all the little endings if you're wanting to use this for a birthday, like a 22nd birthday. Everything's there. And then happy birthday at the bottom. It comes with, separately, there's a small die set that goes with it, and you can't see it, but essentially it cuts out these shapes, these three shapes, so that you can put those on your boxes and have fun with it. Most of the time you've seen me do these little critter boxes, and this is the most recent guy. He's the tiny frog. He's so stinking cute. I can't stand it. Usually the opening is in the back. A very simple design. And then I showed you on another recent video the hedgehog. Hedgehog was just before the frog, maybe about 2 releases back. And how cute is this? All these little triangles that cut out, you can pop them up and give yourself some texture. Well, give your hedgie some texture, I guess is the better word for it. Again, typically I put the tail on the lid of the box so it's really easy to open and close. I think this guy would also make a really cute lion because his face to me almost is screaming lion mane. So I think you could do that. Just keep the sides and the top and everything plain and change the tail to something more majestic like your lion would use. But anyway, it's your choice. There's a whole host of other animals that are out there. You'll see Melissa has quite a selection. I think I've done one of each one of them for you to see in the store. So there's lots of samples there for you to look at. So again, when we're going to make this, first thing you've got to do is decide what you're going to make. I'm going to walk you through the hedgehog box today. And when you're looking at the die sets, you'll look at this and that's pretty daunting. This is our frog set. All those little pieces are a real turnoff to me, and I know they are to lots of people. Get past that. It's all fine. It's all very easy to do. The small pieces, for the most part, help you. There is no requirement that you use each and every one of them. Some of them, like the little cheek dies, oftentimes I grab a pen or a marker and just draw the cheeks in. So it's super easy. Don't worry about having to place little facial expressions and that sort of thing. They've got it covered in each and every die set, and the way they do it varies. So I'll show you a couple of those methods. Let's just look basically at how the box itself is constructed, and then we'll look at how we would use it to put together a specific character. So as you can see, when you cut out the box, all the score lines are there for you. I pick a place and start folding them in, giving it a good crease. The heavier your cardstock, you might have to get into using a bone folder. For most cardstock, I find it just fine to crease it with my fingers, and it turns out really well. But I just crease right on up the line on that side, and then I turn to this side and make sure I get all my flaps. So I work straight up the line. And then I go back down again to bring in these top and bottom flaps. Pretty simple so far, right? And there you go, you're ready to start. You can almost see the box forming before your eyes. And that's not the way it goes. It goes that way, sorry. What you want to do is to put it together. You want to use, first of all, identify how the box goes together. This is your back. The notch is always the back piece. So if I set that at the back of my hand and just push the sides up, now I know that this is the lid and this is just the little flap that goes in. So I'm not going to glue any of these top or bottom flaps. There aren't any. They all just sort of fold up. I want to stick to the sides essentially. You want to use either glue or use 1/8 inch score tape. And isn't that a messy roll? Sorry, it's been laying around for a while. It's got a lot of glitter and other sorts of craft supplies on it. I've tried to use the tape runners before, like Tombow and that sort of thing. And the truth is, it doesn't hold your box together. You need a lot of strength with this because it wants to fight you and come back apart. It just really does. There's not a good alternative. So glue or score tape. I prefer the glue just because I have a minute to change it if I've mispositioned. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on my front flaps. Again, how do I know these are front flaps? Because my back is way back here. And you want to stick with a glue that's a little bit on the faster drying side, like the Nuvo, like Lawn Fawn tube glues, like the Gina K, something like that. And I'm going to set those pieces right in place and hold them for just a few seconds until they set. If, like this, my box is out of place a little bit, I can simply pull it apart, reposition it, and I'm in good shape. Can't do that with the tape, so I think it's much better to use the glue. And again, just give it a second to get good and dry, and then you're able to move on to the other side of the box. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and put a little glue on these flaps too. Messy gluer, huh? Oh, I'm off camera so you can't see. I am a messy gluer. It's true. And I'm going to press these flaps into place one at a time. Again, I want a square box, not one that's not. So I'm going to take my time, make sure everything's set up right, go back and verify. And then just hold on for a minute until those dry sufficiently that they're not coming apart. I'm going to cap my glue so I don't have dry glue either. Then all I have to do is push the top flaps in and close my box. How easy was that? So boxes are super simple to create. If you wanted to do countdown boxes, you'd have 25 of them done very, very quickly, or 10 or 12 of them, depending on how many you wanted to do. So let's take a look at and do our hedgehog. And let me just point out one other thing. Usually when you see the character dies again, they're like this. You want to look at the back to see what your character looks like though. How does he finish up? Because you want to know what colors of papers and that sort of thing you need for your project. That's important. So I'm going to set Hedgie aside here, the die, and I'm just going to set him in front of me so that he can serve as inspiration for my project. Now I think when I created this hedgehog, my browns are pretty close in color. There's a lot of difference, but when you get that darker color over the light, you don't see a lot of contrast, especially through those little spine thingies. So I did end up going through and inking it a little bit just to make that contrast a little more. But again, you'll decide what you feel is necessary when you do your project. I've cut all my pieces. Hopefully I've dumped them all out here. Again, you don't have to do things like cut cheeks and that sort of thing. Those can be simply drawn on with a marker. It's really not a problem. So you can see we've got our face piece, and all I did was pick the die pieces. I'd show you those, but you know, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on when you look at die pieces alone. This guy didn't have any real extras. What I'll point out though is there's a difference in the pink pieces, and let me grab the die pieces to show you that actually. One of them fits his cheeks and the other pops in for his ears. So these are we scooch these to the side and see if we can get all these on camera. We've got all our little spiky ones. I believe that one cuts the top. There's a spiky one to cut a side, so I'm going to need 2 of those because I've got 2 sides. The spiky one for the back. How do I know it's the back? Because it's got a notch. I've got my face, the outward hair here. I've got the inside of the face. His cute little tail. These little teardrop shapes are the ones that fit behind his ears and give him little pink ears. So again, you can choose to do that or not. Sometimes they do that for the animals and sometimes they don't. There should be another little die in there, and I'll admit to you that I have a little problem right now with my die cutting machine. It seems to like eating my tiny little dies. And so I lost a pair of cheek dies to it, and they're just exactly like these. So I'm not going to worry about it because I have other cheek dies from other little critters that I can use. So it's not going to send me out to buy a new die for that. And then we have this funny looking piece, and what the heck is that for? This we use to cut a black piece to go behind the face. And oh look, all of a sudden I've got black eyes and nose on there. So they never leave you hanging with too many tiny pieces. There's always a solution. If they don't give you a piece like this to cut out, then just grab your scissors and whack off a piece of black cardstock and stick it behind there. Don't ever feel like you have to chase around the little muzzle piece, for example. Look at how tiny that is. And try and cut it out of black and inlay it in there. Sure, you could do it, but most of us want to spend our time on other more fun projects. It's all good. So I'm going to set these aside for just a minute. First thing we're going to do is put the box together. How do you decide what color box? You really look at what animal you're creating and what makes most sense. At first, I thought I was going to do it in the dark brown cardstock, but it's really much better in the craft color. Excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and fold all the way up the line as you saw me do before. Fold all the way from one side to the other. pick up my end flaps, or side flaps, I guess is a better term for them. And then I'm ready to start putting it together. I will tell you that sometimes when you use a really lightweight paper, it will overscore and you'll have a paper that, or a really dry paper, might tend to crack when you go ahead and fold it. So be a little bit ginger till you understand how your paper is going to react, and you can react accordingly to that so you don't have problems. So here we go, we're gluing up the sides for the front part of the box. This is the part I especially want to be square, like it should be. So now I've got both pieces up. This one's moved on me, so I'm going to push it back into place. And I'm just going to hold on for a few seconds and make sure that that started to dry enough that I can move on to my back. And it is just a matter of seconds. It's good to go now. I'll pull this back, put a little more glue on these flaps. Pull up the back. Again, you don't have to hurry so much with the glue. Take your time, make sure it's right. Hold it a second so that it stays in place. You want a good square box. No slipping around. And then once you feel like that's dry enough, you can go ahead and close it, and we're ready for the decoration. It's just the simplest little box. Again, your notch is typically the back. There's a couple of designs where it doesn't always work so well to have the notch in back, and you'll notice those with that particular box when you put it together and just flip it around, but for the most part, you won't see it. I typically like to decorate the front first. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this black piece, I'm going to add a little glue to it, and I'm going to add my face. I shouldn't have put it right here because I usually try and stay away from the facial features so I don't have that ugly glue spot showing in and looking stupid. But it doesn't matter how straight or wonky it is. You just want to try and center it within the back of this so that the black isn't hanging out. If you've mispositioned it, just grab your scissors and whack it off. It's not a big deal. Now for this piece, you can see the hair is cut out there. So we're just going to pull that back a little bit, and our little guy slides back in. Now, what did I forget? I didn't do the little teardrop for the ears as I did. Hang on, I'm trying to find my original box here. On this one, for this box, I'm going to do it a little bit differently and just leave those brown. Guess what? There's no Lawn Fawn police hanging around my house anyway that are going to tell me I did it wrong or whatever. Do what you like. Use the pieces you want. Don't use what you don't want. It's up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little glue on the face. And then I don't have to worry about holes anymore on this because the only ones that are there are the ears, and I know they're way up above. And I'm going to go ahead and sort of center it in that area and pop it in. I always watch his little feet too and make sure they're kind of parallel and one's not up too high versus the other. So there's our face, and it's ready to go. I'm checking to make sure my back is still my back. I haven't moved things around. And I'm going to put a little glue on the box now. and put this down. It's going to extend over the sides, and that's okay. If you notice at the very bottom here, there's kind of a notch in that's going to help you direct that to its exact center where it fits, and the rest will just hang over and it's just fine. Now I'm not going to use cheeks on this guy either because I'm going super simple. I can either add them later with a marker or I can decide it doesn't need it. I'm going to grab my little tail. This is the teardrop shaped one. Usually the point goes up. Again, not always, so you always want to check your picture. If there's not a picture on your die, grab one off the internet. There's plenty there. And then just go ahead and set that in the notch. And glue that in place. Pretty easy, huh? And I've got just a little bit of glue squirting out, so I want to make sure that I take care of that so I don't have problems. I'm going to do my top part. In order to do this, you do have to go through and pull up each and every one of these little guys. All those little notches. If you don't pull them up, they're not going to pop up on their own, sadly. Sometimes it's easier to use a scissor or a pokey tool or something to help you pop them all up. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to remind you to do that, but I'm not going to do it because you don't need to sit there all day and watch me pop those guys up. So this is the top of my box. The quills on the porcupine either go toward the back or down. So this is the top, they're going to go toward the back. I'm going to add glue to my box lid. And I'm going to press it down. For this part, for the decoration part, it would be okay to use a tape runner. The problem becomes if you have younger kids or even adults, and especially older adults that like to show things off, sometimes they use it a lot. Sorry, I'm going to just pull this lid up to make sure that that's sitting down properly. And so I tend to use the glue just because it helps it to stand up to a little bit more wear and tear. And again, it's an exact fit, so you're going to wedge it in there. If you find it easier, do the tail afterwards, but I just find it easier to do the tail first. That's just me. So that part's good to go. We would put the back on, same way. We're going to go and we're going to pull up all of these quills, or at least a few representative ones, and then we'll add some glue to the box. And for this one, I don't have to think about positioning because my notch is at the top. That's where I need it to be. But you'll notice my quills are also facing down, which is exactly where they should be. Make sure to take a minute to hold these sides in place because they do need to adhere well to the box. Not every character has four-sided coverage. This little guy does because of his texture, and he needs to have it. Some of the others may just have a face. Seems like I have that on a little bit crooked, but it's okay. So now I'm going to grab one of my side panels, and again, do the same thing. Pop those notches. Add your glue to the box and pop it into place. Make sure your quills are going down. The point of the triangle should face the bottom. Now, especially with these heavier papers, I find you just have to hold a little bit longer to get good adherence on that. It's not always the case, so, use your judgment is my best advice on that. Again, I'm going to pop up a few representative quills on each side, but you got to do them all. It just takes a minute, and it's not that hard. Again, grab a pokey tool or the point of your scissors, and you'll have them done in no time. Just don't poke yourself. That would be a bad thing. And there we go. My super simple hedgehog is done. He's got all 4 sides covered. If I wanted to, if I'd popped all those quills, if I try and do it now, they're not going to pop because they're glued down at this point. I don't have any leverage to get underneath it, and I would make just an incredible mess trying to pry them up at this point. So you want to just leave them as they are. When I did this one, I had everything pried up in advance. I thought it looked really good, but you can see there's not a whole lot of contrast between this brown and the brown of the box, which is right next to it. Sorry, we're not in focus here for some reason. So what I did after the box was done is take a blender brush and put, I think it was walnut stain Tim Holtz ink on, and I went over each of those quills, and it really brought them out. I also went around the perimeter of his face and his little hairline here, and it really made such a difference. So remember all your other tricks and techniques that you use for different cards and that sort of thing when you're making these boxes. Excuse me. It's up to you to get it right, get something that you're happy with. You just have to work with it. So that's our hedgehog. They're all super, super simple. Some of them have more pieces, some have less pieces. You are not required to use any of the pieces. So if it stresses you to look at the cheeks, don't do them. I usually don't. I've got markers that'll do that. Whatever it is, there's a workaround. Sometimes there's choices on the dies, and I'm not sure I have one. Actually, I have one right here, I think. The bunny. The bunny can either be a standing bunny, or he can be like this guy sitting down. He can have arms that he's essentially standing on, so he's on 4 feet there. This one has arms in front of him. So sometimes there's extra options in the dies, and you'll look at some of them and go, what the heck is that? It's okay. You can get through. Again, work through it. There's a lot of videos out there. If there's one in particular you're struggling with, let me know and I'll shoot a quick video for you on how to assemble that box, whichever way you want. They are really very easy. Don't let them fool you because of their looks. And again, the only one I have that doesn't have parts cut out of it right now is the frog to show you. Excuse me. And again, all these little pieces can be a little bit off-putting sometimes, but try and work through that because it's well worth it. They turn out so stinking cute. Let me show you the froggy again. Froggy has 4 feet. The little front feet come from underneath his face, actually, and stick out the front of the box. The back legs are all one part, and this little end just folds up. So he's just the cutest. Of course, he comes with a crown. I thought he needed some jewels on his crown. That just seemed right. He seemed like a regal fellow. So, yeah, it's very fun. For example, on this one, you actually use a die to cut out these parts here, the little holes that give contrast. So again, if that freaks you out, grab a marker. Not hard. Thanks so much for watching. Again, that's the Lawn Fawn Tiny Gift Box die. Melissa does have them in stock at long last. Yay! And lots of the fun little characters that go on it. I know once you try it, you're gonna get hooked. Thanks for watching. Bye.